What's going on, everyone? Chris here, and this is the Guy Basics. Today we're going over something very near and dear to my heart: driving. And not just any driving a manual transmission car. It's something that I feel every guy should at least know how to do, even if they don't own a manual car. I love driving a manual transmission car. The reason being is I feel you get better feedback and you have more control over what's going on while you drive. And so many people just want their cars to do everything for them. Well, I personally love driving, so why would I want the car to do everything for me? It's just boring. We're gonna break out my Hellcat and we're gonna go over the little basic things that are gonna help you kind of understand how this works. First off, you obviously see that there are 3 pedals. Oh my God, 3 pedals, what the hell do I do? It is not a footrest. Do not rest your foot there. You'll screw things up, you burn your clutch out. That's no good. Obviously, clutch, brake, gas. So let's start off with the mechanics in general. You have a shifter, right? Gear selector, whatever you want to call it. But basics: linkage, throw-up bearing to a diaphragm spring. The diaphragm spring is connected to the pressure plate. The pressure plate's actually bolted to your flywheel. Now, automatic cars have flex plates, manual cars have flywheel. In between that pressure plate and the flywheel is your clutch material, your friction plate, if you will. That is what actually makes the contact so that it's not metal on metal. There's actually a material in between. And those of you that have ever driven a manual, that have ridden the clutch a little bit too much, you'll have that weird smell to it. That's the friction material actually burning off. And that's not a good thing to do. The very basic premise of what a manual transmission is you're disengaging physically from the motor to the transmission. So with that clutch, and that's what that's doing, is disengaging those 2 points. So that is kind of the basic idea of how a manual transmission works and kind of exactly what you're doing. This is a 6-speed. My fiance's car is a 7-speed. Basically what is overdrive, so when you're going a long distance you get better fuel economy. Well, this is a Hellcat, they don't care about fuel economy very much. Let's get in here and talk about how to actually start this thing up and get it going. As you know, most automatic cars, you put your foot on the brake and turn the key or push the button and start. Well, in a manual car, you actually have to push the clutch in. You'll even see it on my dash here. If I can get the sun. Press clutch pedal and push start button. Okay, cool. So, start button right there. Push. See, fires in life. What I like to do is I give it a little wiggle to kind of let me know that, hey, dude, you are neutral. That's what this means, so I can easily let the clutch back out. This part is where a lot of people have issues because there's some finesse to it, there's some learning, there's some muscle memory you have to gain. Not every clutch is the same. It's not gonna give you that same feel, that same pressure when you push in or release it back. Like my car is what they consider a heavy clutch, meaning that it takes a good amount of force to push it in, and there's a lot of feedback coming back when you go to release it. So you kind of get a little different feel, whereas my fiance's Corvette is a very light clutch. So when I switch between this car and go to that one, I almost stall it because I'm used to a force pushing back and there isn't any, and I almost just completely release it before I give it any gas, which is no good. Every clutch is different, and you got to take some time to kind of work that leg back and forth, kind of see how that feels. Now, when setting up for a manual, you want to make it so that when you push the clutch in, your leg isn't fully extended. You want to keep a little bend here. Otherwise, trying to push it all the way in, especially at stoplight, stop signs, if you're not situated properly, you won't be able to push all the way in, you grind gears, or you stall out. Clutch in, foot on the brake. Now we're gonna select gear. We're in first. Now foot is off the brake, okay? Now with my car having as much torque that it does, remember torque is what actually does the work, it's what actually gets the vehicle moving. I can start to release the clutch, and you'll see I'm starting to roll here. Get the clutch to bite. That's when you know that you're starting to engage the flywheel and you're starting to engage with the actual engine RPM. And at that point is where you need to start to give it a little bit of gas, and there you go, you're moving. Now what a lot of people are going to do, and a lot of people are going to have problems with, is they're either going to be too much gas and then they're going to dump the clutch or something along those lines. If you start to dump the clutch and you get that really herky, jerky motion where you start going like this and start bogging down, don't freak out. All you need to do, push the clutch back in. Because again, pushing the clutch in disengages the motor from the transmission. just take your time and keep that in the back of your mind. If you start doing something weird, if you just push the clutch in, it'll stop reacting in a negative way. Now, finding that proper balance of gas to clutch takes some practice. It really does. It takes a lot of time. I don't say a lot of time. You could probably drive for a week straight and figure it out if you're relatively coordinated. But really just kind of feel what works. Just a little bit of gas, a little bit of clutch, and there you go. See how I moved a little bit? That's because there wasn't enough gas to get this 4,600 pound vehicle moving. This is when I'm talking about the herky jerky. That's when it's lugging. And clutch in. See how it just kind of smooths out and idles out? That's what it's supposed to do. Getting going is usually the hardest part that most people have when it comes to driving a manual. It's what they fear the most, because if they're riding with a buddy, they don't want to stall out. If they're in traffic, they don't want to stall out in front of other people, because now cars either rear end you or they get mad and beep at you. It's okay. If you push the clutch in again and start the process over in your head, you have a lot better chances of just getting rolling, and you'll really start to feel what that clutch is kind of reacting to and what it's telling you. Like I said, if you dump the clutch, it'll jerk, stall out. Okay, well, you just learn that you need to gradually release the clutch and give it a little more gas. Back in first, clutch in, all the way in, and a little gas, release the clutch very slowly, and off we go. Very simple. Fortunately, because I forgot my suction cup mount, I gotta hold this, steer, and shift. It's all right, I'm in an empty parking lot, so we're all good. So, now we're in first, right? Oh God, now we're gonna go second. What do? Clutch in, go to second, clutch out, ease on the gas. The cool thing about most manual transmissions is you can feel what the RPM needs to be. Every car is a little bit different. Every car is gonna need a little more, a little less gas, a little higher RPM, or a little lower. It all depends on that vehicle. But that's the beauty of driving manuals. You get to kind of feel it out and see what it likes to do. Like right now, I'm not actually on the gas. I am in second gear and doing 11 miles an hour, and I have yet to touch the gas because of how much torque this car has. The other part to driving a manual is getting from, say, 6th gear, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, going down. Because what you now have to do is match your road speed with your engine speed. When we slow down, we shift down. We slow down from 40 to 35, move from 5th to 4th, easy. If you're coming to a stop sign or a stoplight, I always say brake pads are cheaper than an engine. So I'm not one of those to go from 6th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd to 1st all the way down the line and let the engine slow me down during normal driving. So I'll get to a certain speed and I'll just put it in neutral and just use the brakes to slow down. That's the way I personally like to do it. If I can use the least amount of stress on the motor driveline component, you're going to increase the longevity of all those parts. Like you heard me say before, if you give it too much gas and you let the clutch out too quickly, you'll do a burnout. Like that. But your clutch is your friend. As long as you're not riding it, and by riding it I mean you have it halfway pushed in, you're using the gas, and you're just burning that bad boy up. You don't want that to happen. That's very bad, and that can be very costly. So here we go. We're gonna go first, second, third. Okay, now downshift, second. Didn't even notice, did you? It's because I'm only doing like 12 miles an hour. That's no big deal. Now I'm not demonstrating a hill start, but what happens when you are on a hill with a manual transmission, you obviously need to push the clutch in. Well, you only have 2 feet, right? If you push the clutch in and release the brake, you start to roll backwards. Oh no, right? What you do to combat that is, once you have it completely pushed in, you're in first gear, ready to go, you gradually release the clutch and you'll feel the car to lurch a little bit. At that point, you stop releasing the clutch, you keep it at that point, and you switch over to the gas. And the reason why you leave the clutch at that point is because that's what's going to keep your car pretty much from rolling backwards. And then you add the gas and you can go and take off. That takes a little finesse, again, learning. And that's the great part about manual transmissions. They're not all the same. A lot of them are tricky. Some of them have their little quirks to them. But to me, driving a manual makes you a better driver in general, because you don't have the luxury of just sitting back and letting the car do everything. You have to read the traffic. You don't want to be in the wrong gear to take off. You don't want to be in the wrong gear when everyone slows down hard. I hope you guys like this little video of how to drive a manual. It's a little bit different take on how the mechanics of this work. It's my personal opinion on how to go about driving a manual. Everybody's different. Again, every car is different. But I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe. We'll get some more videos out and we'll have some fun. Later.